this album was very needless to say, it was a step in a very unique direction for him. I mean, because normally when you think of, his music, you typically think of the piano, you typically think of like the horns, or other types of styles of music like that. Whereas this one was a very unique direction for him. And I was just checking our Wikipedia before we went live tonight and did our show, where um, basically he recorded some of these songs in 2010, 2014, and then ultimately recorded all of it over the course of 2018 and 2019 in his home studio in New Jersey. I as a fan of his, I enjoyed the music back then, and I need to say I did enjoy it now, holding up 5 years later. I There were some songs that I don't remember as much because they didn't have much of a resignation in my mind as I thought they would initially. Like when the first time I heard all the way through, it's like, okay, it's like a unique take on like the Southern California 70s folk rock vibe, you know what I mean? And Kyle's here. There we go. Um this is but needless to say though, it was a kind of a Glenn Campbell inspired Burt Bacharach um vibe. And if you're not a fan of like, I'm just saying this generically, if you're not a fan of orchestral movements like strings and stuff like that, or like orchestral pop like that, this might not be for you. And it wasn't for me initially. It took me a little bit of time to get into it, but as time progressed on in 2019, when I was listening to it more and more, I said, this is something really special. I'm really surprised that he would put out something as unique as this. Needless to say, I'm gonna get into my track list in a sec, but just that's my little introduction for Western Stars for whatnot. And I have the track listing right here, and I just want to check something really quick. It was recorded, sorry, 2010, 2014, 2018, 2019. It was recorded over the course of those years on and off. This is actually a shelved project of his for many years, apparently, too. Um, so let me get into my track listing for a sec here. There's 13 tracks total. The film version, for those of you who remember when it came out, it was actually, they included a live cover of Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy from 1974 or 5, whenever that song came out exactly. But it included a cover of that song. But we start off with hitchhiking here. This one, I'm thinking about a 6.5, believe it or not, out of 10. It's not. When I remember listening to it the first time, I was like, my imagination was kind of taken back by it more and more. But this one, I don't find myself going back to it more than I thought I did initially. So a 6.5 on a good day could go up to 7, but it didn't really have much like resignation after the fact of it for me. Now the Wayfarer track number 2 is a little bit longer, and this one is about a 7, could go up to 7.25, pushing it a little bit. I like the orchestral movements in it. I don't want to repeat myself too much here, but I like a lot of the orchestral movements in all of these songs here too. Some more than others. Some of them they're a full on orchestra in there. It's a full on like just nothing but like it's almost like a symphony in the background kind of thing. It's just beautiful orchestral movements by him. But yeah, the Wayfarer, I said about 7.25, could go up to 7.5, pushing on any given basis, pushing it there. Then we get the Tucson Train. This is a 8.5 out of 10 for me. I like the imagery he creates. I like the world, like the cinematic feel of it, of the song. I like the fact that he's able to create imagery, and the music just adds to it. Like you imagine you imagine kind of like you're almost like you're back in time almost. Like you're enjoying you're riding on a horse and buggy almost in like the Midwest of like the 1800s. That's the kind of vibe I got from this. So like from history class kind of thing. It's kind of cool there with a Tucson Train. Again, 8.5 out of 10 for that one. Then we get the Western Stars, the title track. This should come as no surprise to me, but I love this track. This was the one I go back to the most outside of the last couple on the album, which I'll get to in a minute. But Western Stars, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's a 9.5 out of 10. I could not go to a 10 out of 10 on this one, strictly because I feel a little. We've done our shows now for over 105, over 108 times. I feel like I'm just generally gravitated towards title tracks. So I only wanted to go down to a 9.5 out of 10 for this one instead of a 10 out of 10 because of I like the structure of it. I like the imagery in it as well, similar to Tucson Train. But there's something about that outro that of the strings just really get to me. So I'm 9.5 out of 10 for Western Stars. Very, very strong it really, like, if you could go into the Midwest of the United States and actually probably put this song on and be like, wow, I'm looking up at like the Colorado night sky kind of thing. I get that imagery from this song. That's one of the things I like about this stuff. Sleepy Joe's Cafe, going back down to a 7, believe it or not, out of 10. Um, it- this is one of the ones I forgot about, but it didn't hold up as much as I thought I would like it to. Um, Fun song, fun lyrics, nothing too insane there. But needless to say, it was a 6.5, pushing it out of 10 for that one. Drive Fast, the Stuntman. This one is a 5 out of 10. It was pretty slow. I it 4 minutes and 16 seconds. It could have done more musically. I appreciate his imagery that he was going for. Again, with like the lyric writing, how the music was put together and orchestrated and whatnot. But Drive Fast, the Stuntman. It wasn't that, it's not there for me. It's really not that. It's a 5. I might even go down to a 4.5. I skip it. I skipped it a lot as my lessons progressed on for this record. Needless to say. But then we step it up a little bit with Chasing Wild Horses. This is actually an 8 out of 10. The For whatever reason, a 5-minute track, the second half of the song just really just takes off for me. And like with the carriage and the horse and the imagery in my head was going nuts with like the just, you could picture like being on a ranch in the middle of like Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Like the imagery on this album is incredible for me, at least. May not be for you, may not be for anyone, but that's just for me. And I love the strings and orchestral movements in it, and it was something so unique to me. And then Sundown is a 9 out of 10. I love the lyrics. I love the way the song kind of starts, and there's a lot going on in that track that really has a lot of stuff in it. And it's funny actually. I was just driving home. We do our shows in Monday nights EST here in the U.S. and it's actually getting darker out. And as the song Sundown came on, I was like, oh wow, it's Sundown right here. It's actually, they fit perfectly into that like whole setting. So that's 9 out of 10 for that one. Then we step down to like it's not. I wish he would take this track out. This Somewhere North of Nashville should not have made the cut, in my opinion. It's only 1 minute and 52 seconds long. It's not that significant to me, so it's like a 5 out of 10 for me. It's really not that. It doesn't really do much. It's kind of squished in between Sundown and Stones for me. And I'll get to it in a second, but that's like a 5. It's just kind of just there. Stones. This actually, I could softly go up to an 8 out of 10, but I'm gonna stick with a 7.5 out of 10 for this one, only because it's the lyrically. I mentioned lyrics a lot with him because his lyrics are, to me at least, have a deeper meaning of like, certain imageries and stuff like that. This one just didn't make sense to me. I remember listening to it initially and being like, okay, it's cool. Like I woke up this morning, like it sounds cool, but the lyrics don't really do much for me anymore with it. That's why I'm pushing 7. I probably will stay with a 6.5, I'm being honest with you guys. Now, the only 10 out of 10 on this album for me is There Goes My Miracle. That is the one that I remember listening to nonstop over the course of 2019 when this album came out. I was listening to it nonstop. Uh, Bruce Springsteen has never been known for his vocals. He's never been known to be a great singer. If you I'm saying this as a fan of his. If you go back and listen to a lot of his earlier stuff, like in the 70s and into the early part of the 80s, he's I would argue he's never been a great vocalist, period, actually. And I'm saying that as a fan of him who's seen him 3 times live. He's much better sounding live than he is on record. But now I will say though, the vocals on this whole record do sound a lot stronger than they do than he would have sounded back in the 70s. And that's just, and this There Goes My Miracle kind of proves that point to me, at least. Having, just carrying those notes, like of the walking away part, walking away and the string part of that, and just going about that whole, I don't know. This is the standout track for me. This is a 10 out of 10. This is a ball buster of a track for me. I love the imagery. I love the bridge. The bridge in the song too is actually very. I remember that the most out of all of it, believe it or not, which is kind of weird. But it's very, it's a very memorable track for me. I go back to this one a lot more than this song in particular, and Western Stars more than I did the other ones. But fantastic, 10 out of 10. But again, that's coming from a guy who listens to him kind of often, and I cannot say his voice is like, I guess say improved over time. It's kind of, I mean, it might not be for everyone, but I think his voice has gotten better over time compared to other singers of his time, like in the 70s and whatnot. Like then somewhere as other artists might have lost their voice, this really shows that he has still has a voice that he can use, and it might not be the greatest, but he can use it. Hello Sunshine, track number 12. Um, it was the lead single from the album. Hello Sunshine is in 9 out of 10. It was when I first heard it, I was like, oh my God, he's releasing a Burt Bacharach Glenn Campbell vibe track. And I'm really just, I'm surprised he was releasing something like this. And then when I heard the rest of the album, I was like, this is actually pretty good at the time. But Hello Sunshine, needless to say, 9 out of 10, really solid track. And then we kind of end on not a whimper, but just a solemn, like quiet, a quieter note with Moonlight Motel. Moonlight Motel, it's got some good imagery in it. It's ultimately, guys, it's like a 7 out of 10 for me. It's really not that. I remember like the introduction to it, and that's really it. But I like the intro guitar. But yeah, it's nothing super major to me. I do like it though. I think I said it's about a 7 out of 10, but it kind of ends the album on a very solemn, like quiet, almost like peaceful note, almost like the way My Hometown did for Born in the USA. But needless to say, so overall, if you're looking at an album, if you're looking to find an album that is very much so like different but unique in its own way, I would just say that if you're looking for an album that is just a different style of music in general in the 2010s, 2020s, this might be for you. This might not be for you. I mean, ultimately, it's what you ultimately like to interpret yourself, your music taste as. Um, but yeah, I think overall, I'm sitting on it after listening to it again because some of the tracks held up, some of the tracks did not hold up for me as much as I thought they would. But I'm sitting about a solid 8 out of 10 for Western Stars. I originally had it a lot higher when I first re-listened to it, but upon more listens, the tracks that I did not like as much as the other tracks, were very much so, um, were very much so like just kind of forgettable. Like Somewhere North of Nashville, not that memorable. Stones had kind of weird lyrics. I mean, very not cringy, but just weird lyrics on his take. But overall, an enjoyable re-listening experience for me as an album. And I forgot how much as if you listen to it as a whole album experience, I've said this before on other things. If you listen to this album as a whole album, it actually has a better, I guess I would say, experience overall as a listener. You might actually get a different vibe from it. But no, 8 out of 10 for Western Stars. This was my birthday pick.